Anything you put your mind to, you accomplish. And you never back down, cause you deserve it. The light shines in you, cause you're the realest. And you walk by faith, you're optimistic. You inspire me, girl, you inspire me. You're so inspirational. Inspirational.
Welcome back to Your Inspirational. I'm your host, Gormikia Sturdivant, and today I have with me the lovely Charrisa Taylor.
Hello, everyone.
She's in the building. I'm just so excited to have her. Charrisa Taylor does so many different things. Publishing. She's an author. She is a speaker. She is a minister. She is an intercessor. So she does a lot of things. So she's going to talk about a lot of things that she does, and we're going to just conversate right here. So stay tuned.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having
My
me.
pleasure.
So, as she said, yes, I'm Charrisa T, or Charrisa Taylor. I am the CEO or visionary of HR Ministries, and also I teach I Coach LLC. And it all started with the start of a small group at my church, and my then pastor was asking us to start small groups and to get into small groups. And at first I was a little apprehensive. I was like, I had just came from a smaller church, and I really just wanted to learn, like get into the word and kind of be off to myself, because I didn't want to start like serving in ministries and stuff like that because church hurt is real.
Yeah.
And so I kind of started there, and then it maybe was just going for about 2 or 3 years, and then he was encouraging us to start small groups. And so I started a small group. Well, at first, it really wasn't a small group. We just met at the library. I met a couple of friends at church, and we met at the library, and we were just doing Bible study together. And then after that next season rolled around for small groups, a friend and I was debating on, starting it or leading it or whatever. And so I didn't want to at the time. I was like, nah, Lord, I got too much going on. I was a cheer coach. I was doing a lot of stuff at work at that time. And I just didn't see myself being a leader. And little did I know it wasn't my plan. It was all about God. And so after we wrestled for a few days, after we wrestled, maybe about 3 or 4 days, I went ahead and gave in, and I led it. Now, you're talking about leading a group of people, not doing anything like speaking in front of tens of thousands of people. It's just leading a group of maybe 10 people. I was very fearful, but it was the best decision that I made, and it has brought me to where I am today. I wouldn't be the author. I wouldn't be the speaker. I don't even think I would probably be a business owner had I not gotten into leading that small group, because it was that step of obedience that got me to the next step and the next, and to got me to where I am to get today. And that was back in 2015.
Okay. Wow.
That's good. 2015. So yes, I have been the proud visionary of the ministry, HR ministry, which stands for Hello Ruth, based off of Ruth in the Bible. And we started that. We got the name from my pastor, because at the time he was teaching a love story. He was teaching from the book of Ruth, a love story about you. And every time he made a point to the ladies, he would say, "Hello, Ruth." And so he will always forever be a part of my story. Like, that's how I got started. And it was me stepping out on faith, getting uncomfortable, and stepping into a role that I didn't seem worthy for, which was the biggest step that I took to get me to where I am today. And since that first step, I've been taking big leaps. And every time I take a step out, it gets harder and harder, and I second guess and I get in my brain. But 9 times out of 10, it is the biggest and best decision ever when you go with God.
Wow. And you mentioned church hurt. Did you experience it?
I did. So my My home church I came from, I grew up in that church, but once I came back from college, I became more active. I came back, I moved back home. I was very active, and I started to get leadership roles there. That's where the leadership roles came from. I kind of knew that God called me to be a leader at a younger age. I just kind of shied away from it. And so at my home church, they started putting me over. I'll never forget, a lady asked me to do a program. Like I was over the program or something. I can't remember if it was like, it wasn't a youth program, but Usher program or something like that. But she put me over the program, and it started from there. And I believe that because at that time I was in my career, working in the role, I think they saw that ability that I had, and so they kind of wanted to use it in the church. But after, once you start working and you getting behind some things, you see some things. And I wasn't happy at some stuff with how some stuff went down as I was at that time working with the youth. By then, this is maybe 3 or 4 years after that first initial taking on of a program. I had became the youth director, and I felt like I think I was at church just about every day, and church didn't feel like church anymore. It felt like a job. And though I wanted to do the best that I could for those youth at that time, I knew I wasn't healthy, and so I had to back away from it. And because of the clashing between, leaders and people who I looked up to and respected to, looked up to, I couldn't do it anymore. I was just like, this is just, it wasn't the way I thought it should have been. And so I walked away from church. I walked away from the position. It wasn't a paid position. It wasn't like they were paying me. I was just serving, but I walked away from it. And I went without a church maybe like 2 years before I went to my. Only been into 3 churches. I don't church hop. Like if I'm there, I'm there. But it was all a stepping stone for me, because had I not left my home church and experienced this bigger, larger congregation and get that foundation there, it wouldn't have been a part of my story. I probably wouldn't have started a small group. I don't know, but I just remember the second church that I went to, they actually sent a card in the mail, and they were saying, "Oh, we're getting ready to open our next campus in McCalla," and I was like, And the crazy thing, I used to pass that church, and it was it was abandoned. I think the people who bought the building or whatever, they never opened it. And so I would pass and I would see it, and I would just look at it, and I just keep on going. But I knew it was something there, not knowing that was going to be my church home. And I stayed there from 2011 up until last year. And God has called me to a higher position and place. And now I'm at my new church, and I'm serving at my third church ever, serving and just growing in God in a whole different way, and having a lot of different backgrounds. I came from Methodist, non-denominational. Now I'm in another non-denominational church, but I've seen smaller church, big congregation church. I've seen it all, so I have those experiences. So I'm glad that, God rerouted me for a reason. I had to go through it. And so now I don't look at it as being a bad thing. I look at it as being like a learning experience. God had to take me to sit in a season here, sit in a season there, so that I can now do what I'm doing right now.
So what is that non-denominational? Like, what is the?
So they don't have they're not Baptist, they're not Methodist. They don't have a denomination, but we worship God. We believe in God. We worship God. How Baptists, they have certain protocols that they do in different church. My mom is a Baptist, and I know at her church they have I don't know, is it devotion and stuff like that. most non-denomination churches don't have Sunday school,
Okay.
those types of things, and where you'll probably see a Methodist or Baptist church with a Sunday school program. But we do, vacation Bible school. We believe in God. We do baptism and all of that. We just are not tied to a denomination.
And what's the importance to you of, I guess, finding a church? Because I know you mentioned, like, having 3 different churches. I know I've church hopped and different things like that. But can you explain the difference in, like, I guess, finding a stable foundation and talk about life? And, like, because, there are some dead churches out there that's not teaching anything, and people are just withering away in that church. So talk about that.
I think COVID was the biggest thing for me that made me shift everything. Now, I'm not saying that I've learned from each church that I went to. It was a learning experience for me. But I do believe, like, if you are not in church and you're looking for a church home, it has to be a church home that is feeding you. Mm-hmm. It has to be a place where you feel the love and the connection of God. Like, you have to be in that place where the word is teaching you. You're being transformed. Mm-hmm. You're not stagnant. You're not comfortable. It's challenging you to do something different. And not to say that neither of them did. My previous churches did. I think that God used my home church to get me to this church where I was for about 10 years. And that church was my launching pad to get me to my next destination. Mm-hmm. And it was often said at my second church that it was like an incubator, that that church, and I'm not going to name names, but it was there to mold me and shape me to go out, mm-hmm. to be, to go out and do things wherever God is calling me. And so, not saying that I left and it was, a bad reason, but I believe that each experience that I've had has gotten me to where I am today. Mm-hmm. Now, leaving my second church was hard, because that's where ministry started for me. Ministry didn't start in my home church because it was more religion versus relationship. I learned relationship at my second church. And it was hard for me because that was my start. But what God told me was, as the anointing and the calling on my life, which I always felt, I was called to the marketplace or called to the world, not to the inside of the church. Does that make sense? And so I knew that He was wanting me to go out. I get fed and I go out. I get fed here, but I go out and I do ministry there. And so it wasn't a bad thing. It was just I did grieve because I had made so many connections. Like, that was my start. But what God has been telling me and showing me is like, yeah, but that was your launching pad. I had to get you here. I had to cultivate you here. I had to shape you and mold you here for what's next. There is always a next. I mean, I'm not telling you that there's a next church, but there's always a next something. You know what I'm saying? And so I think God uses seasons and places, even people, people shift in our life as well as we mature and we grow up. And we so easily can move from people to people, but it's hard when you're moving from place to place. It's different because you make connections. And I'm gonna tie this in because though I had to leave my home church, I had to also leave a career, a job of 14 years. Wow. So you're talking about 14 years of making, and because I'm an educator, you're making family connections outside of school. I've had friends, parents that turned into friends, co-workers who are like my sisters. I had relationships that I built, but God was calling me to do something else. That was my start. When He called me from my first school to my next school, I knew He was doing something different in me. And it made leaving things, places, and people a little bit easier because, when you are, you've been in a business or corporation, or you've been in places for 12 years, that's a good foundation. But there's sometimes only so high you can go at certain places. And in order to scale, sometimes it takes you leaving what has become familiar to you to step out to something that's unknown.
Okay.
So he started that with me when he moved me from my first school back in 2019.
Okay.
That was my first thing I had to get through. Leaving a job, a career of 14 years.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I know. Like, I was in college doing my internship at this particular school, and you uprooted me. So I wasn't really there. I was there like maybe 15 or 16 in all. No, it was more than that. I started teaching in 2005. Lord Jesus, I listen. It's so many, but it was a lot, you know, and to leave that job, and where I've built all of those relationships, those connections, those people. I've seen thousands of students, you know, met thousands of people. You know, it was hard for me in 2019 to make a leap, but I knew I had to do it, because had I not, I wouldn't even be in full-time. If I had not left my first ever career job, I wouldn't have been able to walk from my career at all, because it was in me leaving that job where I met the person who took me out of my career.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's a launching pad. And so if anybody's out there who's listening and who's, you know, trying to figure out all of these things that God is doing, one thing I want you to know is that God doesn't give us all the details. He gives us certain things to do. And if we don't do that thing, we're going to miss the next thing. We got to follow the steps. I just put this on Facebook the other day. Follow the play. Whatever play God gives you. If you're wanting better, and if you're thinking that better is going to come in a way that you've seen before, not always the case. God does new things. He said, forget the former things, I'm doing something new, right? That's Isaiah 43 and 18 or 19. So we're looking at God to do something new in an old way. And he doesn't do it like that. You got to be able to follow whatever play he gives you, and trust that he's giving you the play. And when you make that first step, he'll give you the next step.
So talk about your ministries, like you say, Hello Ruth. Like, what is it about? Like, you know, who is it geared for?
So Hello Ruth was basically it started as a women's ministry. Actually started as a women's small group. And so we will meet together and learn about the Bible. And after that, it started to grow. Once I made the decision to lead, that's when God said, okay, now I can trust you with the vision. So he gave me the vision to have, just to kind of like have women to grow in God together. And we were going to be doing all these different, you know, it was going to be women with all these different backgrounds just coming together and loving on God. And so basically, that's what it was. And so we did our women's ministry groups. We did Bible studies together. We've done conferences together. We had our first conference back in 2016. It was a singles conference. At that time, a lot of us was single. I'm still single. Okay. But a lot of the ladies were singles, and over the years, man, we've had weddings, baby dedications, graduations. We've had all kinds of things. So I've seen God just move in so many of our lives. Even me, I was an educator. Then after starting the group, I became an author. That was my first step. I published my first book in 2016, and it was actually for singles. And I used that, like God used my ministry as a launching pad for other things. And not just for me, but for other people. And that's where I am. Like today, God has been solidifying in me my purpose. Because at first, I didn't really understand what God was doing. So I had a lot of questions. But now I understand that, Charrisa, you are an equipper. You help other people get into their purpose. You are a midwife. And so now that I understand what all of that was, you know, he had to take me through the book of Ruth and really study and learn those characters and learn, you know, the importance and what the connection was. And I understand that though I am Ruth, I am also Naomi, because Naomi was Ruth's midwife. She pushed her into her destiny, right? And so I understand now that, that's my calling. And in 2019 is when it kind of all started for me.
Okay.
And so I was at church and I'm on my prayer team, and one of the guys was asking for prayer about his wife's school. Now, little did they know, or anybody know, but one person knew that at my current school, things were just out of control. Like, I knew it was time for me to shift because things were clashing.
Okay.
And so once I found out that this individual was opening up a school, I inquired about it. And I knew that this was God, because these are secret prayers that I had prayed, and God was literally like letting them walk out in front of me. Okay. And so I think it was maybe in January of 2019, I learned about a newly school coming in Birmingham, and she was looking for teachers, looking for all kinds of things. And once I, got that connection and connected with her, I knew that's where God was sending me. But I wrestled because, again, I was comfortable in my place of employment at that time. Had been there for all these years, had made all of these connections. And so God had me moving in silence. So I couldn't really talk about it unless he told me to, So from January up until May, like, I had already made the decision in January that I wasn't going to renew my contract at this particular school. But those months were so like, oh my goodness, I was a wreck, because I was grieving that I was leaving and leaving the friends, the friendships, and all of those things. But also, too, I was going into the unknown. Okay. And I didn't know what was to expect from this other school. This was a new school. These are whole different new people and all of that. So when I talk about transitioning, my life has been full of them. Full of them. But had I not made the move to go to that school, I wouldn't be in my business today. Okay. So once I started at the new school that August of 2019, I started to meet, new people, and people wanted to use me, needed tutoring, their tutoring services. I did that at my previous school. Really wasn't something that I was wanting to really like focus on. I really thought if I was going to get out in business, it would be more coaching adults and speaking and all that kind of stuff. But God was like, no. COVID really solidified my business, because once COVID kind of really started, school was shut down. A lot of parents wanted tutors who could help their kids, because that 2019-2020 school year was crazy. School stopped maybe March 2020, and then even when 2020-2021, some schools didn't even go back in person, like they went virtual for a while. It was just really weird. And so, but in that time of the weird, chaotic season, God was birthing a business out of me. And so he had connected me with a lot of different parents and stuff who were interested in tutoring. And then when COVID came and shut down schools, it picked up dramatically. So 90% of my business is tutoring. And that's how I Teach, I Coach was born. But what happened was, I had met this lady, and she saw something in me, and she was like, I want you to be my baby's full-time teacher. And I said, huh? And when she said, and I had just met her, and I was like, huh? And she's like, yeah. I said, but I just signed a contract with a new school. I can't just, I was like, but how? At that time, I couldn't see it. And like, this was like 2019. Like, I had just met her, just started at a new school. I'm like, God, what are you doing? And so we went through that year of COVID, and then I still was tutoring this particular parent's scholar. And then she brought it up again January 2021. I'm at my school. I'm teaching. I'm doing everything. My ministry's still going. I had no plans, ideas to be thinking of full-time entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But God reminded me that when I first started my ministry, I would always say, I could see myself making my own schedule. I could see myself doing this. I could see myself doing that. And he started replaying conversations that I had with other people. And so when she brought it up, here I go again, transitioning from something that I had kind of got familiar with. I'm in a new school. This is year 2 at this new school. But now I'm presented with an opportunity that's going to take me out of the educational field, working under a public school setting or whatever. And so, when she presented the opportunity and I knew this was God, I called my mentor and I was like, girl, listen, I got this opportunity to tell nobody about it. Here I am again, getting ready to shift from another perspective. It's kind of same back in 2019 from my previous school, having to go through this transitional phase. Had to be quiet. I couldn't talk to a lot of people because God is yet again moving me. And so once I talked with her, and I was like, well, this is what I dropped out. And these are the numbers, because I was very, very adamant. I was like, okay, Lord, if we're going to do this, I am going to need my same pay, because I didn't see I was going to need my same pay. And so God fixed it where, and this is just a testimony, this particular parent paid me my same state pay for less hours.
Wow. Yeah.
Here I am for the state of Alabama working 9-12 hours a day, might as well say, because teaching never stops. Even after 3 p.m. it doesn't stop. But here I am working all these hours, and God has given me an opportunity to only work 5, half of that, for the same amount of pay. When I got landed that contract, and that was my first biggest contract I've ever landed. When God gave me that, I knew then, this was my time. And so at my second school, it was graduation. And I remember my principal coming up to me and was saying, oh yeah, your baby's gonna be in her class next year. And I just looked at her like, and I think I cried that next, because I grieved, because I had now again made new relationships with people, and they were expecting me to be there, but God was calling me higher. God was calling me to do something. What I am for sure is, one thing I can say about me, and this may help somebody, I am the first to do a lot of things. And after I did it, a lot of other people were able to come off of their jobs or start their business. Somebody had to do it. And God just said you was going to do it. Like he put me to be the first. Nobody in my family was a business owner. Nobody in my family started up, like in my immediate family had. I did have an uncle who was a minister, but nobody had, did conferences and did things like nobody. I was the first. After I took that leap of faith, I've seen my friends start doing it too. People who I was connected with start doing it too. God allowed me to land that contract to help other people understand that you give too much of your time to a 9-to-5 who will fire you and replace you in 1 hour. You hear me? COVID taught me that some of these jobs, if you leave tomorrow, some of them will replace you, like you said, in the next minute. You'll be walking out, somebody will be walking in. And what COVID and all of this taught me is that you gave so much of your time to a 9-to-5, and you didn't really give a lot of time to your purpose. This was purpose. And I went with it. And it was the best decision I've ever made for my life. And I still get asked to this day. This is year 2 of being a full-time entrepreneur. Has it been easy? No. Is it a bed of roses? No, it's a different grind. It's a different mindset. It's a different everything, because I don't have anybody who's putting a paycheck in my account every 2 weeks or every month, like, an employer would.
Yeah.
So my mindset and my mind frame is different. But I never lost a beat. I'm still in my car. My lights are still on. I can hit gas in my car, a roof over my head. God has been so good to me. And yes, He has made so many ways. And so from me, my transitions in life, like, I look back over where I am, and I looked at how, when I started my homeschooling business, or my business, whatever, which came out from home. I was still in education, so I was actually a private teacher for a family. But I had to do that Monday through Friday for 5 hours. There are 24 hours in a day. So what am I doing with that 19? I put it into my coaching. I put it into planning, to books and writing and other ministry. I was able to really walk in purpose. And I have been able to since then. Now, I do not have a contract right now. Let me tell you how good God is. When I worked with that baby, he was able to get back in school and function in that school, right? God allowed me to grab other homeschooled children, and I was working for them. God picked up my tutoring schedule. I had more tutoring clients. I've had more speaking engagements. I've had more business ideas. I have been able to do so many things that I wouldn't have been able to do had I had that 9 to 5. If someone said, hey, like, I'm getting ready to speak at a conference in Atlanta with Lily Mae, and I'll tell you how I met her. It's on in August, like on a Friday. If I was working for someone, I had to call off work or get a slip or all this kind of stuff. God said, I need you available, so when I'm ready for you to go, you can go and be that vessel. If I need you to go to Atlanta, if I need you to go to Mississippi, if I need you to go to Tennessee, you don't have to call anybody. You just switch your schedule around. Business owner, CEO, you make your own schedule now. It is the best feeling. Now, sometimes it's like, woo, it gets a little rough, y'all. And I listen, in my flesh, I'm like, Lord, should I go get me a 9 to 5, a little part-time job? He shuts it all down. I can't ever find nothing for me. Like, everybody posting like home at work at home jobs. For some reason, I can't do it, even when I want to. And so I just say, okay, God, let me stop. I'm not gonna worry. I can't worry about it because apparently you know what's coming. And so while I'm sitting here trying to get myself tied down to even 3 hours a day, Lord, just give me 3 hours a day. I'll work 3 hours a day for somebody. He won't even let me do it. But let me tell you, like, so many things have happened on the backside of me stepping into my business full time. I talked about I was able to get more coaching clients, do more books and things like that. But I also got an opportunity to connect with a lot of different people. And one of the ways I did that was through an app called Clubhouse. And so Clubhouse is this podcasting app where people get on and they have all these different conversations about everything from business, kingdom, entrepreneurship to the latest hot topics is going on with all of these celebrities. Like, you can find all those types of things on there. But I was able to get in one of the rooms, and a shout out to KBN. That was the first room that I started getting in, and it was for kingdom entrepreneurs, and they did a daily journaling with God, and they would talk about certain topics on that day, and they would give us journal prompts, and we had to journal, and it would be all straight from scripture. And so I did that for weeks and months and days, and then God was like, okay, now start speaking on Clubhouse. So I had created during my first year in entrepreneurship something called the Creators Academy, and that was this online school that I created for authors and bloggers and entrepreneurs to kind of help them start their business, write their books. So I created that. So once I did the online school, I kind of did a spinoff on Clubhouse, which was called the Creatives Lounge, which is still available today. The Creatives Lounge is just a podcasting room. We'll get on. We talk about marketing. I will talk about maybe something that God was saying for us for the season or for the month. Everything that God would share with me, I would share it on the Clubhouse if He released me to. And so now I did these things called Push and Pray. I started Push Nation. And then after I started, I was like, oh my goodness, there's somebody else who already had a Push Nation, but God gave it to me. I kept it. And so Push Nation is just a group of all of my clients who I've had encounters with. I'm pushing them into purpose. Everything that I do, I look at it as birthing terms. So when you think about having a baby, you got to push. So your baby is your business. Your baby could be your nonprofit. Your baby could be your podcasting, like what you're doing. Your whatever that is. I, being the midwife, help them push it out. So I call them my pushers because that's what they're doing. So this Push Nation. But I do a Push and Pray call every Monday at 7 p.m. on Clubhouse. And each week I just get on there and I just tell them what God has told me. I spend time with God. I fast about my business. I pray, Lord, what you want me to do this week. I try to make sure that what I am convinced and I'm sure, everything I do has to be by God. If it's not, it's going to flop. If I do it in my own strength, it will flop. And because He has put a mandate on me to do what He told me to do. And so what I do is once I seek God that Monday, because on Monday I'm giving y'all nuggets. So Monday is my day for fasting for my business. And so I really get in God's presence and hear what He's saying to me about my business. And then what I do is that evening or that night, I get on Clubhouse and I share what God told me for that day, or what's happening for that week, or what's happening for that month. And so I do that on Clubhouse. But so many things have just kind of transpired from me making another yes to start my business. And the crazy thing, what I know for sure, God reminds me, these are conversations that I've had with you previously. So if you don't have a journal, if you don't write down what God is saying, start writing down and dating it. Because it's vision for an appointed time. He gives us the plan, but there's always a time when that plan is executed. And so go back and write those things down. And then guess what? A year from now, you go back and look at that journal and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe God was telling me this. And now I'm walking in that. Like, I get so surprised when I go back and reread some of the things that I've written down and I see that I'm literally walking in it. Like, when I first started my ministry back in 2015, I was having conversations about being my own boss, being my own, making my own schedule, not having to have nobody over my head. If I want to get up and go to, because my favorite spot is Another Broken Egg. If I want to go eat breakfast in the morning, do y'all know, like, having my career, I love it, not knocking it, but it was to the point where if it was something that I really wanted to do, I had to either wait till the weekend or, summertime. I couldn't have the flexibility to do it when I want to. But getting up on a Monday saying, oh, I think I want to go eat Another Broken Egg this morning. Getting in my car, literally driving there, not having to meet the hustle and bustle to get to a 9 to 5. Like, it is a different world. And I am living proof that it can be done. If you get God and get in alignment with Him and make sure it's what He wants you to do, and you do what He says do. And that's one of the biggest things now that I'm trying to hone in is really being obedient immediately. Not just being, but immediately. If He's saying do this, do it and don't wait. Because I was the person who, oh God, I need second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh confirmation before you tell me. And it's like, no, God has put me in a place, and He's like, you heard it, now go.
Yeah.
Do what I say do.
Yeah.
Swiftly
Yeah.
obey. And so, so God has been very, very, very good to me. And I've made so many new connections. I talked about Clubhouse and how I was on Clubhouse, and I started to, elevate my voice and speak more and go into rooms and talk. And so I got connected to someone who was also on Clubhouse, who I had been following for a long time. And her name was Lily Mae, and she's this coach and she's this PR strategist doing her just doing a great job. And I followed her and I kind of looked at how she, was working her business. And I was on her email list, and she was like, hey, I'm looking for ambassadors, or hey, I'm having a contest. And I would enter the contest. I entered the contest the first time. I won a speaking slot on her platform. And I was able to talk about how important your voice is being, how important your voice is. Your voice is valuable. Then she did this other contest, and I won, I think, some ebooks or something like that. Then she started asking for like ambassadors to host things on her platform, and one of her platforms is Clubhouse. And so I became one of her ambassadors on Clubhouse. That connection has now turned into me being a moderator at her upcoming conference in August. So when I tell you, getting out there, making yourself known, like stepping out on faith, getting uncomfortable, taking risks. Like, I used to be the safe girl. I don't want to take the risk. But now it's like, I'm real risky. Charrisa is real risky. Like, I would get out there and I will be real risky. Like, I just get out there and I start talking to people. I'll DM people, well known or not. Hey, how are you? My name, like, just doing all kinds of just things. You'll be like, what? Risky. I have gotten real bold. And so, but it's only because God has worked with me over these last years. These years, like this is not something that I just started. This started in 2014 for me. It was started in 2014, me saying yes to meet a group of people at the library to learn about God. If I hadn't said yes then, I don't think I would be where I am right now. So
tell them how they can reach you.
Yes. So you guys can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Charrisa T. My website is www.charrisat.org, which is CHARRISA. And my email is info@charrisataylor.org. You can email me. You can find me on Clubhouse. I think my picture on there, I have my hair short. I got my braids now. I did a bold move earlier this year, cut my hair. Like, God, I told you, risky. Like, just doing some risky stuff. But like, you can find me on all social media platforms. My ministry is on there too. Hello Ruth. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're actually also on Clubhouse. We host rooms. We just did a room last night with Coach Kimmy J, and she was talking about being a divorced, dating Christian. Bananas. So yeah, we're on YouTube. You can find information about my ministry and myself on YouTube as well. So yeah, that's how you can get in touch with me.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
You're so welcome.
I've been trying to get her here for a long time.
Yes.
So yeah, she's real busy, but she's open. Like, if you want to contact her, she's really, really good, and she loves helping people. So, but thank you. Bye.
Bye.
See y'all next time.
Thanks for watching Your Inspirational. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, all right? See you next time.